What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Money Is Show. And today we have a special guest on the show for you that I think can help you guys as entrepreneurs. As you know, I always try to help entrepreneurs in their journey of becoming more successful. And one of the things that I've always struggled with is more like the CFO side, the financial side of it, the running of the book side of it. And a lot of times entrepreneurs do it because we have a different side of the brain that's like visionary and driving and sales and marketing. And we forget literally the most important piece of our business, which is the financial side of it. And a lot of times our answers are always, well, if we just sell more, then it'll take care of themselves. And it doesn't always work that way. You could actually probably make a lot more money if you understood how the actual cash flow and finances work. So I brought in an expert to talk to you guys. His name is David Richter from Orlando, Florida. And David flew in for this episode because he wanted to help entrepreneurs just like you. He's the president and founder of simplecfosolutions.com, where he helps entrepreneurs, real estate investors just like you, where you're not ready to hire a full-time CFO and have a massive salary based out of your corporation yet. But for those entrepreneurs that are getting started and have 10 employees and 20 employees that aren't ready for that massive commitment, but are looking for help in their finances, we brought in, like I said, the founder and CEO of simplecfosolutions.com. He's also the author of the book, Profit First for Real Estate Investing. He wrote this book and partnered up with, wrote the foreword was Michael Michalowicz, which many of you may know him from his original book called Profit First. And we'll talk about this deal that David did with Mike Michalowicz concerning Profit First for Real Estate Investing and how that took place as well. This is a brand new release book coming out December 7th. So make sure you guys get a copy of that. I'll tell you the website on the show. But on that note, let's welcome the man, the myth, the CFO legend that will help entrepreneurs just like you, David Richter. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome to have you come in all the way from sunny, beautiful Florida.
Yes, indeed.
Uniquely enough, I know you live in Florida, which I'm there as well. And you live in the part of Florida that I think, when I say Orlando, that I dislike the most.
Okay.
And I don't want to start on a negative note, but it's true. Because like to me, Florida, if you're going to go to Florida, it's some heat. There is some unique heat too. Like not just like hot, it's like uniquely hot, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're going to be down there, at least be by the ocean. And in Orlando, it's like right in the middle of both sides. Now, granted, you're only like 2 hours from Tampa, and then 2 hours from the East Coast side of the ocean there, but you are kind of like in that middle, and then you have tourists galore because you're Disney World, like tourists galore. Yep. So what made you go to that unique spot of Orlando when there's Tampa and Miami and so forth? What made you go there?
The biggest decision is I have a 4-year-old daughter. Okay. So I absolutely love her to death. Yeah. So my wife and I were looking for schools, and I come from a background of faith, so I wanted to look for something of faith, but I didn't want a traditional type school either. Sure. So there's actually what's called an Acton Academy, and they're all over the country. But they're like entrepreneurial type school. They make you think. They actually like draw up their own. The kids draw up like their own bylaws. Wow. Like at the beginning of each year, and like they sign it and hold each other accountable to that. And then I was like, this is it. So there's one down there that has that, plus kind of it's Christian as well too. So I wanted to put it.
The whole Acton school system Christian, or just that branch? Or?
Not particularly. They're more on the conservative side, but not everyone has, the religious background to it.
Gotcha. So family drove you down there.
Family drove me.
It's amazing what you do for family, especially kids, right? Like pick up and move to Orlando, also the betterment of children. And it's unique because they have that entrepreneurial kind of side to them versus your typical school that's like, well, a lot of parents move to a good school district. Right. Like, hey, this is a good school district, I'll move across town. You picked up and moved across the country and chose a very unique school that was promoting and endorsing entrepreneurship. Yes. A lot of times in schools, they actually, like, to a certain degree, demote, if that's the right word, entrepreneurship. Like, it's kind of put into a box and it's like, hey, you shouldn't go do that. You should have to sit here and only do this and only say these things, right? I think it's a lot of what's messing up in our whole society right now is we have trained non kind of like thinkers, like outside the box of like, hey, I don't say question in a bad way, but ask questions. Right. Why does this do this way? And is it the only way to do that? Or is there another way to go do that? Which a lot of times kids don't ever have that concept.
They don't have that opportunity. It's like, you've seen those memes or those things. It's like school is like teaching a fish how to swim, but there's a whole bunch of different types of, you've got lions and snakes and they need to be able to learn the way that they learn. So that was huge for me because I felt like I grew up in a traditional type school, even it was Christian or whatnot, but it was still like, don't question, this is the way that it's going to go, and this is how it is.
It's not so much about questioning authority. I think people misunderstand that. Like, I don't think you should, from a young person, I think it's important that they respect authority and understand authority and so forth. So I'm not trying to get them to necessarily always question authority. I'm trying to get them to question a concept of why is it this way? And is it this way because someone made it this way? And is there a different way to go about this? That just because we did it for 50 years this way doesn't mean we have to do it for the next 50 this year.
Exactly.
Like, it's the innovation side that I think sometimes the schools struggle with helping kids. It's not about innovation, it's about memorization. Ooh, that is
that was good.
Good, Bruce, write that down, brother. I need to start putting that on Instagram more. How did I say that? Write it down, I don't want to forget it. But I think it's what's there, so I commend you in not just moving across town, but moving across the nation to help your daughter out. That, of course, most kids would love to have. So what I want to ask you is, look, entrepreneurship is unique. It's different for everybody, and everybody does different things inside of it. Very, very broad. But I've always found a unique part of entrepreneurship is entrepreneurs that go inside of the financial or the operational kind of side of a business, because it's like, I don't know, it's the unique part of the business that is a lot of entrepreneurs don't ever focus on. If you ask them, hey, is your strength in QuickBooks and accounting? Like 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs are like, no, I don't even know how to open that thing up, right? And a lot of times they don't even want to learn how to open it up. You went into entrepreneurship as an entrepreneur inside that financial kind of background. So tell us a little bit of background how that happened.
Sure. So I am not, even myself, not the QBO guy, the QuickBooks Online and like the CPA type.
Yeah.
But I saw this. I saw like the real need. So that was the big thing. It was need driven of that so many people don't want to talk about it, and like what is the missed opportunity and how can this benefit them? Because I got started myself in real estate investing. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in college. A good friend gave that to me, and that just unlocked. That was the first time I feel like I really questioned things.
Let me pause for a second. Isn't that book about questioning though?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think it's why it connected to so many people in our generation, because it was like, wait, I'm allowed to question a concept? Like, I can't do this.
Right.
But because truth be told, the book has very little content inside of it, of like how to do real estate or anything like that, right? But it's this opening idea of this belief system that what if there is a different way? What if there is a different, which I think just lies deeper into what we were just talking about. And that book, I think for so many people, was that catalyst that allowed us to like start like saying stuff out loud when we normally wouldn't have, right? So it's unique you read that one too.
Yeah, so it started out like that, and that's where most real estate investors too, I feel like that's their launching point. So then I actually bought a house like right away, because like you said, there's not much in the content in there, so I'm like, I just have to do this. Like,
jump in.
I got to get the experience.
That's exactly how I did it. So, which is also super risky, but like I had nothing to lose, so I was like, whatever, bro.
Right.
I was already broke.
That first deal, I really liked doing the deal. So I was like, I want to learn more. I want to do more. So I found a local investor in the area where I was living and basically worked for free for 8 months, like nights, weekends, because I still had a job, and was like, I want to learn. Yeah. And so then 8 months later, he offered me a full-time position to be able to work with him. And I was like, yeah, I want to do this because I want to learn more, which opened up a ton of opportunities because I got to sit in like the finance seat, acquisitions, dispositions, project management, property management. I got to sit in all the different seats of a growing business because we were doing about 5 to 7 wholesale deals a month, and we scaled that to like 25 or 30 deals a month where we were doing. So got to see it go from a smaller operation to a larger one, and all the pains and all the different the growing pains there. And it was just an absolutely mind-blowing experience because I had just finished college, and then I got into this, and then was there for 5 years, and that was a huge experience, huge learning point. And I was buying properties from them and building my own little portfolio of rentals, which was another great experience of getting hands-on, like these are the ones I'm responsible for myself. So that was a big leap for me. And then during that time we did over like 700, 800 deals together. So that was just huge learning experience. Then one of the last seats I sat in was that finance seat. And I sat down with our CPA and just said, teach me, I want to learn these numbers. I want to learn everything. And it was, to me, fascinating going from when you acquire a property and market to acquire a property all the way to selling it or renting it, and just that whole process of how the money flowed. Then I realized also, like, as much as was coming in, that much or more was going out, because we had not just doing 25 to 30 deals, we had we had grown to 25 or 30 people on staff. So that was like, oh man. So then right at that point too, went to them and said, hey, something's got to change here. So we kind of restructured everything. I, at that point, had built a little portfolio. So I picked up, sold all my rentals, moved across the country to Virginia, be closer to other family. And that was a huge other turning point for me, because I started working with another investor there. And the first thing I said was, I got to see your books. Like, I know how important the numbers are, and like, I want to go in to see if you're healthy. Like, what do we need to do? And the first thing was, there were no books really. They were there, but like a mess, not really anything categorized correctly. And I'm like, we got to fix this so I can at least see your story. I can at least tell you what's going on. And then 3 months later, like, we knew the story. We knew he could refinance because he was super under leveraged. Like, he only had like 35% loans on his properties, and said, do you want to refinance? And you could grab like probably several hundred, maybe $500,000 of cash. He's like, yeah. He said, if that's my money into it. And so he was able to do that. This was right before the pandemic too. This was like late 2019. And he was able to grab a bunch of cash and then sat on it and said, I could do anything I want now. You know, like, do I want to buy more fix and flips? Do I want to buy more rentals? You know, I don't know what the market's going to do. Gave him great peace of mind. And he looked at me and said, this has been life changing. And then that was the light bulb moment for me. I said, I need to help other entrepreneurs, real estate investors, business owners capitalize on knowing their numbers and how that can put power back into their hands. And that was really the catalyst of getting into the financial side without being an actual CPA or QuickBooks.
Yeah, because it was your second time you witnessed it, lived it, saw it, and then saw the after effect of it, of how much it can change your business or that person's business inside of it. From there, you launched Simple CFO, which is helping not just real estate investors, but actually any business out there. Of course, you have a kind of a niche inside of real estate, of course, with your background, but you guys help any business owners out there. So the thing I want to get into here with you is trying to help the viewers that are out there, the entrepreneurs that are listening, of understanding a little bit more into like, what are the mistakes that entrepreneurs are making, whether it's their fault, not their fault, just a lack of not understanding, a lack of not knowing. But what are those, like, I always find there's normally like common themes that run in businesses, right? So when it comes to the financial side, there's probably common themes that are out there that you guys have identified as whatever, the 5, the 3, the 7 kind of mistakes, if you will, that companies make as entrepreneurs. First, before we go into that, let's talk about why these mistakes are made, just in general. And I just want your insight on it. Why you work with all these entrepreneurs and helping them organize, structure, understand cash flow, understand performas, and lead their business from that. Why do you think entrepreneurs are so lagging in that area?
I think number one reason is they're not trained. There's never really any training on that, because I'll recall the Robert Kiyosaki books. You read them and he says, money has a language. You need to learn that language. But there's no one making it very simple, like on a children's level, because when we go to school, we learn our ABCs first and our 1, 2, 3s, and like my daughter's going into school, so I'm going through that right now, training her on just the basics, fundamentals of being a human being that can communicate. Same thing in the entrepreneurial world. Not a lot of people are given that background. I would say out of the people we work with and the people that I know, like 97% don't have any of the financial side background at all. So I mean, it's the majority that don't know the language of money and like how it really relates to what they're doing and how they can capitalize on it. So I think that's the number one thing. Even if there are courses on it, that because you can go out there and find accounting courses or courses on money, but no one's putting it on that bottom shelf of like how money really moves.
Yeah, I think a unique piece of it is, I think of entrepreneurship, my own life included, right? Most of the time what you find entrepreneurship is there's a pain of not having money. Which is what drives that person into, I'm going to go figure something else out. And that pain is greater than the risk of not getting a paycheck, not having health insurance right now, whatever it is. Like entrepreneurs are willing to jump off that bridge, and whatever's behind them, the big scary monster behind them, is so big and so fearful that they're willing to go make these pretty crazy, risky moves sometimes when you really stop and think about it. On their first one, now once they do it, and they open another division, it's a little bit different. But when they first make that jump, it's unique there. And inside of it, I I think that as that fear of not having money is there, I think it's another piece that they never go and learn is the actual money side of it, right? I mean, and I didn't, straight up, I did not. And I think probably you would testify, the majority of entrepreneurs out there did not go learn it. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm going to say it because this is my opinion, you can tell me what you think of it, is that I don't necessarily even think that I'm trying to get the entrepreneur to go master QuickBooks and accounting. Like, that's not what I'm trying to get you to go do on this show. I don't think it's what you're trying to get them to go do.
Not at all.
It's like, dude, be good at what you're at, and you're good at a lot of stuff, right? And those are your strengths, and be good at those things, right? But you cannot ignore the financial side of it. If you ignore it, which most entrepreneurs do, they just kind of ignore it and just think, well, if I just make more sales or do more deals, that it'll just kind of work its way out somehow, right? And so just understand, number one, I think if you're listening, like, dude, entrepreneurs go through this all the time. Do not feel like you're alone right now. And I think a lot of times because it has to do with money, because people around them think, well, you're in our family, in their circle, like you're successful, you have this nice thing, or you have your own business. And so then there becomes this little bit of ego and pride that they don't want to go reach out for help on the money side, because it's very revealing into their company of like, well, when you do that, we know, meaning not we, but whoever you're working with knows the good, the bad, the ugly of what's actually happening, and they don't want to do that. Inside of it, though, I cannot tell them enough and promote it and push it enough. You got to go do it. Yeah. You got to go do it. Like, rip the Band-Aid off and go do it. And I promise you, you'll actually have so much more growth, but also like awareness and perspective of your business that you've never seen before. Inside of it. So that's my take on it. Do you agree that they shouldn't go learn accounting?
I 100% agree with that. And this is also ties in with the biggest mistake that I think people make is the ignoring of that side.
Interesting.
Because so many people, when we first go in there and help people, that is what it's all about. They usually have ignored it up to this point. And because, like you said, it's not their fault. They haven't been taught it. They don't feel comfortable with that side, and they haven't had anyone very plainly speak to them about it. And during this whole process, which it's so funny because I've got story after story. There was one guy we started working with, same exact scenario. Didn't know where he stood, almost didn't want to, and it was great. The very first time we had put the numbers together and we're showing it to him, he hung up on me. He hung up on me right there. It was like, because it was bleak. He had lost, multiple 5, almost 6 figures in his company for the last year up till that point. And so he hung up on me right there. And I'm like, oh shoot, like, what do I do? What do I do right now? He called me back later that afternoon and said, I was embarrassed. I was just deeply 100%. Embarrassed because I didn't know this before. And, I didn't even know where we were. I thought it was bad. I didn't know how bad. But the great thing was, at the end, he said, I'm ready. He's like, I'm ready to make a difference. And he saw those numbers, where he was. He was also doing, this was a real estate investor, he was doing some fix and flipping and some wholesaling. Well, turned out once he saw the numbers for his fix and flips versus his wholesales is way more profitable. It's what he was good at. The turnaround time, like if he had to pick between the two, he was going to pick wholesaling. So he did. He's like, you know what? We're going to scale down our fix and flip operation. We're going to go with wholesaling. And through that process, just knowing the numbers, it put it back in the power back in his hands to make decisions now. And that next year, they were not only did they reach like 7 figures in gross profit, like that was one of the first years they had done that, their percent, like after everything, their percent profitability went like 20-25% of what he was able to actually have in his business. And that was just from knowing the numbers and being able to take action clearly. But a lot of the times it's just ignoring that because we're fearful of that outcome. And like I said, story after story of
So you kind of started going down some of the big mistakes that entrepreneurs make that you've seen out there. And one of the biggest mistakes you said is just the kind of ignoring it part side of it. And I think what you also hit was normally they're ignoring it and they don't want to reach out because of embarrassment. Kind of what I was talking about earlier. Like everybody thinks that they're the successful big ones, and then they got to go and show their books and they hang up on you. Right. Because it is embarrassing. But what I would tell you is, when you work with a company like your guys' Simple CFO, is that it was almost like going into a doctor. Like when you're sick and you go into a doctor, the doctor's not judging you or like thinking, oh my God, I can't believe you have the sore throat. What a loser. Like the doctor is strictly there and wants to, like sincerely wants to help you.
Right.
Like they're not judging you. They actually want to sincerely help you with this sickness or whatever it is that you have when you're going to a doctor. And I think it's the same thing. Like when I work with my CFOs and stuff, I had to go through this and it's like, dude, there was like zero judgment at all of what was right, wrong, and different. It was just like, oh, here, try this and help this. And they literally helped me rearrange my business.
Yep.
And I say this because at our company now, we base everything, and this is a bit different. We base everything off of cash flow performance. Like we actually manage our business off of cash flow performance. So it tells us every week what to do, what not to do. It tells us where we're lacking in one area, and so then we have to adjust and make it up in another area. So we use our cash flow performance not as just like this one-time paper that we check every month or every quarter. We use it literally as a company-wide management tool. I don't know if this is how deep you guys go with yours, but it's a management tool that we use is our cash flow performance side.
Yep.
Because it's the best thing. It gives us like a crystal ball to look ahead in our business of if we don't make this tweak back here and we keep going on this path, we're gonna run into a problem right here. Like there's no way it's gonna happen right here. So if we make it a tweak here, we can adjust it back over here. Is that how you guys kind of look at the cash flow performance as well? It's almost like when you know your finances, you start to have like a little bit of a crystal ball.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what the cash is too. Cash is blood to the business.
Yeah.
It really is, or fuel in a car, or whatever analogy you want there. But you have to have the cash, and knowing the cash. That's why I love profit first. That's why I love that model, the teaching, that it gives an actual teeth to getting an actual cash flow management system in place to know where have we been, where are we right now, and how do we project where we need to go. So yeah, that's exactly what we instill with the people that we work with, and that's why I want to write this book too. It's like, just get this information out there. Like, you don't have to struggle.
Yeah, you
don't have to. Like, up to this point, you might have had to because there was no resource like this, but now just get the resource of being able to actually manage your cash flow no matter how small or big your business is.
And I can tell you that right now is Monday. I rarely do shows on Monday, but this one got scheduled with our schedule on Monday. And right now we have our Monday meeting. I'm missing it right now. There's probably a dozen of our C-level staff and owners and partners in there. And they're strictly going over the cash flow performance in their different businesses with the different team members so that we can all get on the same page as to where we're at, what we need to do, increase, decrease, move, shift, just for next week, like not for the year, like next week. Because it's what tells us, like, and again, I'm just trying to be a voice to entrepreneurs saying, I promise if you just go do this, you'll actually fall in love with understanding the numbers. You don't have to go do them. You don't have to go sit there and type them in. The report can be created for you, but once you understand how the report works, it's like, oh, I can actually run my business way smoother, way clearer when I understand how this works.
Most people don't lose sleep because they're losing money. They lose sleep because they don't have control or know.
That's so true.
So
such a good point.
Yeah.
Go a little bit deeper into that point there, because I think that's actually a really, really good point there.
So many people come to us and they're saying they're stressed, super stressed about money. Can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
You know, like having money fights or like don't know what's going on. And I see it over and over again. It's not because they have the numbers and they suck. It's because they don't have the numbers and don't know, and it's creating that fear and anxiety in them. Because you know what? They usually have the numbers for marketing. They could say, okay, if we market this and we do it this way, you know, like it'll return this. And
on a house, I'll tell you about real estate because we both have been in that background. It's like they could tell you that, well, if I do a fix and flip, I'm in at 70% loan to value of the ARV, then we're going to be good in it. Yeah. They know those numbers. Yep. But they don't understand the numbers of the business.
Right.
But they know other numbers.
Exactly. They know those other numbers, but then you say, okay, do you know if you're profitable right now? Just like high level numbers. Do you know what you're making per month overall just in the business? No, I know what we're making on the deals though, and I know this and that. And I said, okay, well then if we need to clear out the bottom line and give you more bottom line profit, we got to know all the numbers. And that is the number one reason I feel like most people lose that sleep at night. It's that lack of control. Yeah. They don't have true control over their business.
So true. I mean, look, I'm just like going back in my head as an entrepreneur, and I know exactly what you're talking about, that like anxious nights. And it wasn't because I tell you, just hit a nerve like when you said that from my past, because it wasn't like I didn't have money. Like I always felt like I had money. So it wasn't like I was stressed because I didn't have money. It's like, no, I knew I had money. But I was actually causing the stress or the anxiety was I just didn't understand where it was at the time and how do I grow or not grow? Should I spend more on marketing or less on marketing because we have something else come? And I just didn't know. So it's like you're literally just running blind, if you will, through the force of entrepreneurship, which is already difficult enough, right? And you have those anxious nights that you can't sleep, and a lot of times it's because I think you hit dead on the nail there. Is because you just don't understand where your money's at. Like, where is it at, and what is it doing right now? You may have some, but you don't know where it's at. Great freaking point, man.
And I think the other big point there is, especially when you were just talking about when you were in that stage, people either don't take out money for themselves, they're not paying themselves, or they take out money and they're freaking out because like, shoot, is this going to hurt the business? You know, like I need to keep every dollar in there because they don't have that control. Yeah. So then it hurts them on a deeply personal level of, like, I don't know, can't, my wife said we need groceries, or my wife wants to go on a nice vacation. I want to go on a nice vacation. And they don't even know, like, if taking the money out of the business is going to hurt it, or like, can I do this? For my business, I have a CFO because I want to talk to him to make sure that, like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, okay, are we on track? You know, making sure we're that way. So it's every entrepreneur needs this peace of mind of what we're doing. Can I pay myself? Can we pay the bills? Can we invest in what we want to invest? And we got to know where we stand in order to give that control back of having informed decisions and not just running on that gut feeling that hopefully I can just make enough money, put enough fuel in the fuel tank, and, you know, we'll just keep going.
All right, so if one of the mistakes is that in general they ignore it, which I have to believe, like you said, is the biggest mistake that's out there, is that they just ignore it and assume it's all going to work out. What's another mistake that entrepreneurs make when it comes to their financial side?
Exactly what we've been talking about here, not paying themselves anything or creating that stress of if they don't know their numbers, they're probably not paying themselves. They're not doing those things. And this was a light bulb moment for me with some of the people we've worked with that have said, hey, I was just able to take out, after working, you know, several quarters through this system, through this process, you know, I was able to take out like 5 figures out of just a profit account inside of my business. Never been able to do that before. Like, now we're like moving across the country and doing all these different things, and not having that peace of mind of being able to take money out of the business and really say, my business is profitable. And not only that, it's providing why I got into business. Yeah. Because so many people start this business, have grandiose ideas of like whatever that might mean to them. But if they're not actually reaping those rewards or making it a priority, they're never going to get where they want to be. Because it's that same thing of, like, we hear all the time of, you know, like, oh, we'll give one day, or oh, we'll do this thing one day. It's always that one day. It's like, well, no, what are we doing right now today to make that happen? And I think the biggest thing is people don't know what to pay themselves, how to pay themselves, how to make sure the business isn't hurting, you know, like through that, or that they actually can and not feel bad about it. Because that's another thing. People will take money and then they'll feel guilty, immediate guilt of like, I took this money, but I really hope this doesn't hurt us, or like I'm not cutting into other money that I should have used for something else. And that's one of the other big mistakes I feel like that we probably get trained at different events or masterminds or things, is like, just pour every dollar back into the business, just go, 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 scale, scale, scale. And it's like, well, are you healthy? Do you know, like, is this going to create more stress, more sleepless nights, like if you do this thing? Or do you know that, hey, you're at least taken care of? We can pour fuel on the fire now. We can do these types of things. So I would just say another thing is the entrepreneur needs to think about how they're taking care of themselves and making sure that they have some sort of system in place for that.
I can just agree to the point, just based off of experience. When I was getting started, it's like I never would pay myself a salary or even a contract pay. Like I would. It was more of a thing where, and again, in this show, I'm all about like transparency, because I'm just trying to help entrepreneurs. And when I got started, like, I ran my business debit card as though it was almost like sometimes my personal debit card, because it's like, okay, well, I need groceries right now. Right. And it's like, oh, well, I don't pay myself right now because I'm putting everything back in the company. So I would use the company debit card almost as though it's like a form of my own pay. And at the end of the year, kind of my CPA would go back and say, okay, well, all these expenses that you did, that's actually going to be, we got to put these as your pay. It's not a company expense. This is your pay that we're now going to charge you for, if you will. And so many entrepreneurs, I think, don't live in a world where they can, 3 things here. A, understand what to pay themselves, like how much they should pay themselves. Number two, once they get to that point, then it's like, okay, well, how do I take dividend shares out on certain quarter, bi-yearly or yearly? How do I do dividend shares? And if you don't understand those, it really hurts your bigger picture of why you're in business.
Right.
Because if you don't know, hey, I make enough money to pay my bills right now, right? Not live financially free, but you've created a job for yourself, which is totally fun entrepreneurship out of the gate, and you're making enough money to pay your bills. That's like, you got to get to that point, and you pay yourself, whether you do the 1st and 15th, just like you would your employees. Like, it's the same thing. Then you got to know that okay, if I'm paying myself here, therefore how much profit I have left over every quarter, month, or so forth, and when can I take that money out, and how much of it can I doesn't mean I can take all of it out, but how much can I take out? And you don't know that if you don't know the numbers.
Right.
Like, it's impossible to know that information. So let me ask you a couple of questions. I think this is important for entrepreneurs, and I just want to get some advice from you. Would you say that entrepreneurs, CEOs that you work with that are, whatever, let's just call them from the 0 employees to the 20 employees range, would you recommend that they take a paycheck as a 1099 or a W-2? For most, there's an answer there across the board, but just it's just something that we always go through, right?
Right. Disclaimer again, I'm not a CPA.
Sure.
But as far as this goes, what we see is most people need to just get on a W-2 at the very start to get them in the habit. The biggest thing is the psychological benefits.
Yeah,
create a habit of paying yourself. And with W-2, your taxes should come out, so that should lessen the tax burden at the end of the year as well too. Like, you're actually taking money out, and
plus it allows you to, as an entrepreneur, if you'll go do that, because I agree with what you just said. Like, I'm not your CPA, but I agree with what you just said. Because also as an entrepreneur, you don't understand there are things like you want to go buy a car, you want to go buy a house. And when you play this game of 1099 and tax write-off and debit this and debit that, when you go to buy a house, it gets really confusing. Of, can you buy a house? Where if you just had it, where you had a W-2 that paid you X amount, whatever it was, at least there's that base that you have the W-2, and then you can say, plus I have this extra business that has this profit share, whatever it is over here, on top of that, right? Or commissions or draws, whatever you want to say. But I think it is absolutely important for entrepreneurs to go get on a however they want to do their pay, 1st and 15th or monthly, but get on a freaking W-2. And I know you think as an entrepreneur, you're like, but I'm going to pay taxes. Just trust me, it's freaking worth on this example, at that stage and that level, to just go get on W-2 and pay yourself.
Right.
It also gives stability in your family, your house, your partner needs stability of not knowing, can we buy this, can we not buy this? I don't know, and we don't get paid.
Right.
So I totally agree with you. I think it's a W-2, and again, I'm not anybody's CFO or CPA or CFO, but I agree with you. W-2 that thing out of the gate. In that process, if a one question that I'm sure you get all the time, and if I push back from an entrepreneur standpoint that they're watching, is like, but if I take a paycheck, I can't pay my company bills or whatever. Like, I'm sure you get that all the time of like, I can't take a paycheck because I won't be able to do this. What is that entrepreneur saying to you at that moment?
Well, they're saying they don't have a healthy company, or they don't have a real company if they can't pay themselves and pay the expenses of the business. And that's where the profit first comes into play. The formula that everyone thinks of, that everyone is telling us, is like sales minus expenses equals profit. I make a sale, I pay everyone else and their mother, and then I get what's left over. I get the dregs, at the end of everything else.
I flip a house, I make 30, I pay all these people, whatever's left over, I get paid. And maybe it's a big one or maybe it's a small one, but I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, wait, there's another marketing campaign that's going on.
Right.
So maybe,
maybe put the money back in the
I need to go
now.
pay. Yeah, exactly. So, but I love the profit first formula is sales minus profit equals expenses. I make a sale, I allocate to what we need and to make sure that the business is healthy, like to profit and to paying myself first. Then this is what the business is left over. So sales minus profit equals expenses. So to start out that way, because not everyone's a venture capital company where they can just be in the red for years and years and then turn a profit,
but
right?
It exists somehow.
But at the beginning, it's usually yourself. Maybe yourself and a virtual assistant going out there doing the hustle and grind. You need to make sure you're profitable and that you are getting taken care of, and to make sure that the bills of the business fit into that. Then you can grow and scale from there and know, okay, I know that now we're at here, but now I can bring on a couple people, pay them, and I'm still getting paid. Then down the road, maybe 5 years or whatever, when I want to hire a CEO to take over my position, I'll just replace what I was being paid like in that W-2 with theirs, and I'll just start taking distributions and draws. So it's like getting into that habit as early on, because so many people, if they go down this road of, okay, I'm going to pay myself, well, the business doesn't have enough money. It's like, well, that's a big red light to say, okay, we got to do some rearranging here and make sure that we're actually profitable.
And I think what it tells people, if you're an entrepreneur, is that if you're running this business and you can't pay yourself first, it actually will give you some direction, even on the standpoint of, should you keep this company afloat?
Yeah.
And I think entrepreneurs miss that sometimes, is you have all this talent, you have all this drive and this grit, this determination to go become successful. And you started ABC company, whatever it is. And you get so hell-bent on making this thing work and proving this thing out that if you don't understand the numbers and you can't pay yourself, that eventually it would tell us, like, think about it from our perspective now. If we go and launch another, like we'll call it a division of our company, right? But like we'll launch another company inside of ours, right? If that company can not sustain itself in a certain amount of time frame, then it's time for us to cut that off. Just straightforward. Like, it just means it's time for it to go. It's not that it's a good idea or a bad idea. It doesn't mean that it would work or it wouldn't work. It just means we need to go put our time somewhere else that we can make money inside of. And maybe someone else can go do that business and it works for them. But for where we're at, it won't work anymore. To me, there has to be that if you cannot pay your bills, you cannot pay yourself, one question, but if you have that data that you're talking about, it gives you the ability to make it actually a very smart, intelligent decision of, should I double down on sales, or wait, should I pause and actually go do a diverse business that can grow the way that I want it to grow?
Exactly. It puts that power back into your hands. I'm all about the control. Like, the business owner needs to have that control.
100%.
And more stories. Like, we had an owner a real estate investor, who when they finally had the numbers and now they're profitable, they had been thinking, oh, I want to scale up. They took a step back and they were like, you know what, this past year, took several vacations with the family, able to spend, like, I don't work on Fridays anymore. And they're like, do I want to scale and have more people and potentially like work more, or do I want to have the lifestyle type business? That's where knowing those numbers gives you that power to be like, do I want to put just stay right here? Do I want to scale? Or like you said, if they're in the red, it's like, is this viable or not? Like,
viable?
Right.
Or am I just driving this thing for no reason right now just because I'm trying to prove a point?
Exactly.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in bad ideas that's right on the fence, and they just keep driving and they use their debit cards and so forth, and it's just a disaster because you don't understand those numbers. So if we go back to here, if let's just go through three of them. If one mistake is they ignore finances, happens all the time, myself included when I got started. Number 2 point was that they don't pay themselves. They just don't pay themselves, and they run their business paying everybody else first and make sure the company has money, but never knowing how to structure their pay. What would be the third one for today of a mistake that they make?
Sure. There's a ton of others that I could go through, just because we haven't, this hasn't been information that, like we said, has been distilled down to us, like the entrepreneurs. One of the other ones that I see a lot is, you had even mentioned it, like using the debit card for personal and business, stealing from themselves. And there's so many owners that we work with that have multiple entities. And stealing from one entity to cover the cash flow of another, which ties into what you were just saying about the viability. It's saying, can these companies run on their own? Are they really viable companies? If you're always stealing cash flow from this one to this one, are you doing that in a set fashion intentionally? And it's like, so we see the way people are, commingling or stealing from themselves or whatever, however you want to term that is another mistake where it's like, they haven't been taught to be intentional of, am I managing the cash in an appropriate fashion to be able to sustain these companies? So that's another big one that we see.
That one has multiple faults to it, because as soon as you start commingling of funds from different companies without doing it the right way, there's a proper way to go about it. And if you understand your finances, you could say, I'm going to have this company X over here. I'm going to loan $10,000 to this company over here to help start this company, grow this company, et cetera, whatever it may be. But that should actually, the way that we do it now is that's actually a loan. That's literally a freaking loan.
Right.
and people that never does, you may laugh, but we actually have a loan document that we use that says this company loaned, and here's a loan document, this amount of money on this date, and with interest of X or investment of Y back from this company over here. And just like if we were to go get a loan from someone at the bank, we have a loan document that needs to be paid back by a certain time. We would, and again, just be super clear, I didn't start there with it. I started I want to, I'm doing fix and flips, and I want to do rentals now. So I'm going to go start this rental property management company, and I'm going to have this. And then before you know it, I was like taking money from my fix and flip side, throwing money in my property management side because it needed to pay some bills. That the rent hadn't came in yet. And so then this one's funding this one. And over time, it just became this big like ball of, I don't know, whoever needs money, we have to go get it from, right? And the other thing that happens when you do that, and you do that the wrong way, because there's a right way to do it, but when you do it the wrong way, when you commingle those business funds, you also are piercing your corporate veil.
Yes. Which
a lot of people don't understand that's literally how, if you get in a lawsuit, how they track you.
Exactly.
Of piercing your corporate veil is because there wasn't an actual official loan document. You can loan money all the time, no problem.
Right.
But just like if you get in court, they're going to try to say, well, where was the loan doc? Like, show me how you loaned it. And it's like, oh, I just went online in my bank on my app and just transferred $23.88 over here, and I did this one over here, and I did it every day, and it's like, okay, that's not a separate company. That's really you, and you have 8 LLCs, and they all just play together. So really there's only one, it's you.
Exactly.
And when you get to that point in a lawsuit, you are screwed. Mm-hmm. And I know you thought because you had different boxes that you always talk about LLCs and boxes. It's like, oh, I have all these boxes. Like, bro, you're going to get murdered in court. Yeah. God forbid you get there, but understand you probably will in our society, in our day and age, and you're doing that much business, you're going to end up there, and they're going to absolutely shred you. And what you're going to find is you're going to be personally responsible for all that crap you just did. Yeah. Like brutal mistakes.
I would say that when people have come on board with us, 75% are doing something like that with their companies. Oh, for the other 25% usually don't have a second LLC.
Yeah, we're not even going to pretend it. We're just going to put it all in one.
It's just all in one
Forget
bucket.
It. So. But then the other ones have 9, but it's really just actually one is what it actually is. Yeah. And they live in this like myth of, it's all separate. It's like, dude, and you know how I know this?
How?
Because I did it.
Yep.
Like, I'm just full transparency. I freaking did it. Yep. And I actually ended up in court. And I'm like, oh man, come on, LLC, protect me now. It's like, no, dude, they shredded that thing to pieces, right? Yeah. So I'm saying all that, and I'm saying because I want to help, and I know it's what you want to do as well. There's a ton of mistakes. Look, you guys out there listening, these are mistakes that CEOs, entrepreneurs make. It's also the reason you wrote the book here, Private First, with your buddy Michael or Mike Michalowicz on Private First. The question really goes into, okay, how do you fix all these? What are the steps to go inside of it? That is not for a 45-minute show, because that gets into really deep information of how it works and so forth. One thing they can do is they go get a copy of your book coming out December 7th. Yep. If they want a copy of the book, where's the best place to go? What websites to go to?
SimpleCFObook.com.
Okay, so your current company website is SimpleCFOsolutions.com. Yep. But for the copy of the book, you go to SimpleCFObook.com versus Solutions.com. They pick up a copy of the book starting December 7th. They could get a copy of that book right there. If they wanted to actually look at hiring you for a CFO and to come in and help, they would go to the original site, SimpleCFOsolutions.com. I cannot endorse and promote entrepreneurs out there doing this. I know you think, no, I got to go get more sales before I do this. And my answer to you is don't, because you don't even know what that sale means. You don't understand if it's actually going to even help or not help. I know you just think, no, if I just go get 5 more sales, it'll get me to a point. Just all those justifications, and just stop all of them and just start here. I promise if you'll start here, it will then tell you, should you actually go get 5 more sales? And what will that actually mean for you if you get 5 more sales? Or actually you'll find out you don't need 5, you need 50 more to keep this thing moving. Right. And it's like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't go do this, right? Right. So I can't push that enough through the process of getting that there. Last question I kind of have for you just on the book side, before I give the money, this question is, talk about your kind of partnership with Mike Michalowicz. Mike wrote the original book, Profit First. Yep. Which is across the board, a great book that he wrote. And then you ended up partnering with him on an idea that you presented to him, which was, hey, let's talk about Profit First for real estate investors, because that was your original first niche that you went into. How did that kind of play out?
So it was probably a year before where I had started the company and like started to work with real estate investors and kind of prove that, like, hey, Profit First is working, and hey, people are now paying themselves. They're actually, getting control over their business. They know these numbers. They're able to get that control back. So that's when I reached out. It was a simple introduction to him. I had become a part of his network too, like getting to at least be known in there. And so I reached out to him via email, and his scheduler said, yeah, let's get something on the books. Had a call with him, a Zoom call. I remember it because it was my birthday. It was July 2. And I was like, hey, let's make this happen. What do you think about Profit First for real estate investing? Because look at what we've done with these people here, and it's been really good. And he was like, yeah, I'm going out to these other meetings. I think that would be really awesome to get the book out, Profit First for real estate investing. Then from there, it was a whirlwind, working with his team, the book writing team, and everyone, just how to write the book. Because I wrote the actual book, all the words and the pages and everything. And it was just learning how to do that, learning how to structure it. I went through with an amazing person that he recommends, AJ Harper, to do the book writing, and she's incredible, but how to serve the reader through the book and make sure that they get, that knowledge and value out of the book. And because a book is a very personal thing. You can sell a book to a lot of people, but people read a book one at a time. Yeah. So it's very how do you make sure to get that info out? So partnering with Mike, it was, getting on that Zoom with him and then having a bunch more Zoom calls from there and, just hitting the ground running.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I wanted you to share a story because I wanted the viewers to understand that you're actually just like them. You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes anytime they see someone that's in finance, they think, oh, you must be a accountant, CPA
right. Yep.
type thing. It's
Numbers
no,
nerd.
You're an entrepreneur that works with other entrepreneurs, that speaks the entrepreneur language.
Exactly.
Understands entrepreneurship, just like they understand entrepreneurship, understands the struggles of it. It just so happens your business is based around helping them on the financial side.
Exactly.
Just like they have another partners or affiliates that their entrepreneurship is on the marketing side, and they work with them nonstop all the time. They love that relationship. And my point is they love this relationship as well because it's entrepreneur to entrepreneur about the most important thing. The whole reason you started the company was really for money. Not in a greedy way, but because you wanted to do stuff with it. Again, go back. It's the fear of what's behind you of I don't have any money, and it's so painful that you're willing to take risk. But then once you make the jump, then you ignore finances again. And it's putting you back in the same kind of cycle that's always out there, you know what I mean? So totally support it and appreciate it and know the value of what you got going on. On that note, I want to ask you the question about money is. So you got the sign here with you, with your cash flow shirt on.
Yes.
With money is from Dave Richter. So Dave, what I'm gonna have you do is obviously it should be a unique answer or viewpoint from the standpoint of your whole business is surrounded around money. So you answer it here, whatever it may be, 2, 1 word, 3 words, whatever, and then you sign it kind of between here and here, and then me and you will talk about that, of what money means to David Richter at
Simple CFO Solutions.
Simple's first, right? I was like, wait, CFO first. No, simplecfosolutions.com. Again, if you're an entrepreneur, check that out. Let them help you and create a very clear picture for you in your finances moving forward. Here we go. So this is David Richter, founder and CEO of Simple CFO Solutions. And his answer is money is amplification. Amplification. Money is amplification. So you went with the one-word answer, which I love. For my OCD wall outside. I believe, and I'll double check, but I believe it's the first time that word of amplification has ever been given, which also is a total win for me for the show. I always like new words for my wall. Mm-hmm. But let's define it now. What does that mean to you, David?
Amplification. Because money is just, like you hear everywhere. It's a tool, it's those opportunities, but it really amplifies who you are. Who are you really down deep? What are your values? If you show me your bank account, I'll show you your values. What do you actually believe in? That's where we work with people. Some of them, when we set up the Profit First system, they have a total bank account dedicated to charity, to giving.
You saying you helped them set that up?
Exactly.
Or they had it set up?
Well, they are already giving people, and so they wanted to have hey, we're already giving, let's set up a bank account specifically for charity. So I know that that's a part of who they are, and so their money is amplifying that. So it is an amplification of every single person of what they believe and your mindset. You grow as a person, from, at least if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably constantly bettering yourself. So it always is amplifying the value that you bring to others, how it's amplifying that, it's amplifying your mindset. Where are you right now? You know, like in your mindset, is it a healthy mindset? Is it an abundance mindset? Are you attracting those things? So it's really an amplification of your core values, who you are as a person, and it's like the manifestation of that, of actually in your bank accounts, and then how you use that money as well too. It's an amplification, like I said, whether that be giving in charity, or some people set up specifically for their family. Like, this is the legacy account. This is what I want to pass on to the next generation, or what I want to do right now. Here's a vacation account. You know, like, let's do something for right now for the family. And it's like that, to me, money means those memories. Money means those values. Money means it's an amplification of who that person is. And we get to see that, you know, tangibly by how they provide that value and how they serve the world.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more on money as the amplification. And this was a convicting statement that was told to me a while back, and I was like, ooh, that one stung. And what it was a little bit of what you're talking about. And I had to rearrange some stuff in my own life. And it talked about, let me go look through your bank accounts and I'll show you where your heart is.
Yep.
And it was like, oh man, like as an entrepreneur, I think we get caught in this thing of always saying what we've already talked about, what we entrepreneurs live in. One day, I want to do good. Man, as soon as this thing breaks and this happens, I'm going to go do all this good. I'm going to go give to missions or give to charities or foundations or whatever it is. And then there's also the side of the family. It's like, well, once this breaks, then I'm going to go take my family on this vacation, or I'm going to go do this thing over here. And entrepreneurs, we always live in this concept of one day. And if we're not careful, that one day actually never comes. If we don't run it the right way, one day never shows up. And we've spent, before you know it, you spent 30 years in entrepreneurship. Sincerely, I think you wanted to do good. I'm not saying you didn't. I think you did want to do good, but you never took the time to set it up the right way to allow yourself to do good. Mm-hmm. You know, does that make sense? And when that person told me a while back, I was like, hey, if you want to get to know someone, let me check your bank account and I'll tell you your heart is. Like, well, man, I do give. At that point, I was like, man, I give here, I do this. But man, I think I'd be embarrassed if someone looked at my finances of what I was actually doing. And I had to go back and reset some stuff because I didn't want that. I didn't want me, if God forbid I died in a tragic, sudden death and my children and partner looked inside my bank accounts and was like, oh, well, Dad always just spent money over here. I didn't want that legacy. I wanted to know, no, my real focus was this. And I want to show you, without me having to be there, without me explaining it to you, if you look at my bank account, you'll see this is what I'm driving.
Yep.
And I think it's one of those things that money is amplification. And I think there's a lot of good-hearted entrepreneurs that need some help setting up their finances to allow them to accomplish what they truly want to accomplish.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? And how many entrepreneurs that you meet with are good-hearted people, but they always live in that one-day world. Yep. And it's like, dude, if you'll just take a second, get someone like David's team to come in to help set up those processes for you, you'll naturally start giving more without even actually knowing that you're doing it, because it's just set up a certain way that allows you to be that good person that's there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's why I truly wanted to start this business. I want other people to be able to do what they wanted to with their business.
Yeah.
And they can't do that if they're struggling or living deal to deal or living day to day or stressed out all the time. And because that's also going to come through their money. That's going to be amplified. If they're living like that, it's going to be that constant, here we go again, the rat race, you know, like it is that wheel that they're on.
I got one more question for you that I want to try to help some entrepreneurs here. I just thought of this.
Yeah.
Out of all the entrepreneurs that you've helped in this process, how many of them would you say, once you guys came in, painted a picture for them, that they were able to actually go on and start down the path of accomplishing what they wanted, versus how many of them got on and said, hey, this business isn't for me, I need to quit and go do a different business? Do you know a ballpark, I'm kind of putting you in a spot here,
oh, sure,
of like, which way does it normally work with entrepreneurs when they work with you? Is it more like, oh man, this is so much clearer in vision, I can start doing what I truly want, versus people who say, oh man, I'm screwed, I quit? Which one is it normally, is it?
Honestly, it's 100%. No one has quit up to this point that we've worked with. where they're usually doing a viable business.
Yeah.
They don't need to make more money. They need to be able to keep more money right away. So no one has quit, like what they're actually doing. And even people, because we've had it on both sides, people that are making money and they are profitable, now they can just pour fuel on the fire. Now that it's clear, they have that control. But then, like I said, we've had people lose multiple 5-6 figures in their business in the previous years or whatnot.
Yeah.
But they've doubled down and said, no, I love this business. We can lean out, or we can do this, or we can pivot to this, to this exit strategy, because a lot of those were real estate investors. And so they were like, let's do what really works and focus in and hone in down on that.
On our strength.
And exactly. And now these are the type of people taking the vacations, don't have, the stresses that they once had. And it is that empowerment. So up to this point, no one has said, oh, we just need to go out of business. It's not viable anymore. Yeah. They've all been able to either turn it around or get it back on that path to where they really provide that value.
Yeah, I love it. I thought that would be the answer, that most of them, because it was for me, of like, oh no, it just actually allowed me, it amplified my growth. I'm going to use your word here.
Right.
When I had the finances, it amplified my anxiety, my fixing of the anxiety. It amplified all those things. So I thought that'd be the answer. I mean, I just want entrepreneurs to know that, like, if you'll just take the time, forget the embarrassment, I promise them, they're not going to judge you. Like, they understand. It's why they're in business, to help you. So there's no judgment there. I just encourage all of you to reach out to someone. Either reach out strictly to David at simplecfosolutions.com, or reach out to any guy that could just help you understand this process. And again, I want to be clear. I'm not talking about just an accountant that does it at the end of the year. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody who actually help paint visions and goals for you, financial on that financial side. So hope you guys enjoy the show. As an entrepreneur, I promise out of all the shows that I've done, it's one of the things that you desperately need. Again, that's not a dig on you, because I needed it. All entrepreneurs need this philosophy and understanding it. So I hope we were able to bring you some value here with David Richter, founder and CEO of simplecfosolutions.com. You guys make sure you check him out. We'll see you next week on the Money Is Show.